Hi, I'm Tuesday Night from A Nightmare on Elm Street, Part 4, and you are watching Psycho Rick.
For your darling, sleep this moon, don't dare let her tremble for the way it should.
Family is a beautiful thing, isn't it? From mom, dad, sisters, brothers, aunts, uncles, you know. Especially when it comes to siblings. That one person to be there for you, good or bad, thick and thin. But we also know that where there are siblings, there's rivalry. And sometimes the rivalry can get so bad that that sibling will try to do a lot of things to that person, including murder. Which brings us up to today's chapter right here, as we talk about a couple of siblings, twin sisters at that. One had a good life, the other one went down a terrible path. And that path got so terrible to where the other one tried to kill the other. Join us as we read today's chapter about Jenna Han. Born in 1974, Jenna Han is the identical twin sister of Sunny Han. Growing up together, the two shared a close bond. They immigrated to the U.S. in 1986, first living in Seattle, Washington, before settling in Southern California. They had a rough childhood adjusting to their new environment at first. Besides the language barrier, part of it was due to their mother, who had a huge gambling problem. She would disappear for days at a time, leaving the girls to fend for themselves. Eventually, the girls turned their luck around after their sophomore year when they moved to Campo, California with their aunt. They graduated from Mountain Empire High School, where the two were co-valedictorians in 1993. But afterwards was the first time in their lives the twins parted ways. Not only was it the first time that the twins parted ways, but it was also the first time that the twins would go down different paths of life. Sunny Han moved to Plencia, where she took on a job as a receptionist, while Jenna worked at a nearby casino in Lakeside. While Sunny prospered in life, Jenna traveled down the road of her mother. She started gambling, and before you know it, everything she had worked for had gone down the drain, leaving her in debt by January of 1996. This debt, however, caused Jenna to commit things such as petty theft, forgery, and other things, which would eventually land her in jail. Down on her luck, Jenna called the one person she could rely upon the most, her twin sister. Sunny agreed to take her in, but over time, their once sibling rivalry reared its ugly head. On 4 occasions, police were called out to break fights between the two. One was for Sunny breaking Jenna's nose when she threw a phone at her, where it eventually led to Jenna ratting out Sunny to the police because at the time, Sunny had a warrant for unlawful use of a credit card, where she was arrested and spent 3 days in jail. During those 3 days while Sunny was incarcerated, Jenna took all of Sunny's checkbooks and credit cards and completely wiped out Sunny's bank account by impersonating her. Angry about this, Sunny pressed charges against Jenna, and she was arrested, charged with a felony, and sentenced to 6 months in prison. This is where the sibling rivalry between the two twins finally reached a boiling point. On November 6, 1996, around 3 p.m., Sunny was getting out of the shower in her new apartment in Irvine, California, when she heard a noise that sounded like a struggle. Fearing it was burglary or a rape of her roommate, she quietly dialed 911 and was able to give them the address before an armed man forced himself into the bathroom, bound and gagged her, and put her and her roommate in the bathtub. Luckily, Sunny only lived blocks away from the nearest police station, where within minutes, they were there, where they were met by Jenna Han. Also around this time, a black guy had peeked out of Sunny's apartment before quickly going back in. Minutes later, a distraught Sunny and her roommate came out of the apartment while the other guys stayed in. But after a small standoff and realizing the apartment was surrounded, the suspect finally gave himself up. This is when police were told by the girls that he was not the only one. There was another suspect in the house as well. But when it was searched, he had already escaped, and Jenna had fled the scene as well. So they questioned their lone suspect, who eventually spilled the beans. His name was Archie Bryant, a 16-year-old who was from San Diego, California. When asked why he was 85 miles from home, he told them that Jenna had drove him and his friend, John Syroth, who also went by the name Yoshi, up to Irvine, California to murder her sister. Because 10 days before the attack, Jenna had skipped out on a 5-hour furlough pass and never came back. Her plan was to assume Sunny's identity once she was dead, skip town, and start a new life. Eventually, Jenna and Yoshi were caught at an Alamo car rental office in San Diego. They were tried with 2 counts of burglary, false imprisonment, and conspiracy to commit murder, while Archie Bryant received 16 years in prison. John Syroth received 8 years, and Jenna Han, now dubbed the Evil Twin, received 26 years to life. Jenna eventually served 20 years of her 26 to life sentence before finally getting granted parole on May 24th of 2018. Now, with both twins in their 40s, it's said that Sunny has gone on to get married and reclaim her life and hasn't been in contact with her sister since. Now, the question is, will they ever get in contact again? Start being sisters and let this be in the past? Only time will tell. But you also have to remember, one sister tried to murder the other sister to assume her life. That's one hard thing to forgive. Who knows if they ever will. But this concludes today's chapter. This is Psycho Rick saying until next time, happy reading.
For your darling, only sun has flown, don't